Good morning, Tammy, and those on the board of video viewing for consideration of or for Road to the Horse. My name's Stacy Spangler, and I'm asking to be considered for Road to the Horse 2022. I'm multitasking, but I'm driving hands-free. I'm trying to get a load of hay in, which I have to do from the barn to the barn, from the hay barn to our barn about two times a week. Anyways, I hope that a video bio is good enough. I did link you guys up to my YouTube page, which has just a lot of training videos of all different kind of horses through the past years. I went and made a different kind of a vlog where we were California colt starters, and the last recent years I had a bunch on there, but I'm not sure how to get it over if you guys can see it once you're linked to the Facebook or YouTube channel. I'm not sure how that all works because I'm more of a fields person, if you would. So with all that said, we feel like we have an early spring here, and so we're just trying to get through a lot of things before we breed mares. A little bit of background. I come from a long line of horsemen, bridle horsemen, cowboys, if you would. My dad rode bucking horses, and we had bucking horses at a rodeo grounds at his place when I was younger, and had an annual rodeo every year. And he roped in, all the cowboy stuff of running cattle, and they're all up in Oregon, my dad and siblings, which are all grown now. But I am the oldest, and my mom rode hunter jumpers and kind of equitation, Western riding type horses. So she had a big background on more show horse, and my dad was the wild and Western. We'll teach him how the West was won. So, as a kid, very early, I knew I wanted to be a horse trainer. And as long as it had to do with horses, I was good. Of course, always going back to the discipline of working ranch horse, snaffle bit, reining cow horse, and a lot of the ranch rodeo, and of course, Western dressage. But I have rode jumpers. English horses, equitation horses, cross-country jumpers, and spent some years on the racetrack galloping and training thoroughbreds. And within that, rodeo. So from the very early age, about 14, I would get asked to get on, neighboring places horses, and there was a young horse that I really, really liked, and I at that time didn't know how she was bred because breeding was not really in my knowledge bank. My dad would call them sagebrush by rimrock, and my mom probably had a little more understanding, but it didn't matter to me at that time, right? So anyways, I worked off and on for a man that bred a lot of and owned Clabber Pinot, and he co-owned it with his now, or ex, but now wife, Sherry Lumen now. But so those paint horses, and Cotton Rosser leased them. So anyways, I worked for him off and on through 3 years of summers through high school to get a Clabber Pinot daughter, who was just tolerant me by an inch. I mean, very non-friendly kind of mare, and I did learn a lot, but I knew very early I could get along with really hard and misunderstood horses, and I could see things that allowed me to get around bad horses. And, there's a lot of stories in between. As a kid, my family would say, you'd get on and go visit the one that was the worst. And everybody was like, oh, but there you were out with it and it accepted you. So at 18, I was asked to bring that big bay mare of mine, who was a John L's Cowboy daughter, out of a P12 mare. Old style, from the 6s, old style bred quarter horse. And go pony race horses at the Ferndale meet for our county fair. And so at 18, they gave me a pony license, said drag those race horses up to the gates, and then we'll see what else we have for you. And at the end of that meet, I was asked to go to the racetrack at Pleasanton, California, and work for, at that time, was leading trainer Gil Matos. And I did that. Once I realized I could start babies, I probably started literally 300 or more thoroughbred babies. Plus, I got my gallop license and then went on to assistant trainer and still gallop because I loved the horses. And a lot of the trainers then become feet men and they delegate stuff. I did get my trainer's license. The off tracks for Pleasanton was Bay Meadows and Golden Gate Fields. And I did get my trainer's license at Golden Gate Fields and worked for a state vet for about a year. Learned a lot in legs and feet and, why things are done and how to watch these younger horses and, how to try to keep a horse together from blowing apart. So from there, I still was wanting to rodeo. I was missing rodeo quite a bit. It was a really good paycheck for a young person. Probably more money I knew what to do with. I wish I had had somebody there kind of managing my money back then. But anyways, I met Sherry Benedict, and she had a gal that she introduced me to named Candy Mercer. And Candy Mercer owned Warbon Leo and was from Texas and was on the forefront now what we know as artificial insemination. But then they were dibble-dabbling with that, and that was back in the late 80s, early 90s, where it wasn't, even talked about in the public. But I rode some horses for them. She was kind of big and more wanting to do some of the reiners, and I know they had cutters. There was a stallion also there named Bo Brannon, which was a son of Poco Bueno. So I really started to merge into the breeding. I guess where I'm going with this little bit of a story is in merging into the breeding, and learned a lot about breeding, hand covering mares. And at that time I had my who, lived 34 plus years, Say Boo Boo, whom I raised. And he was young stallion then, and I bred mares to him, and I did very well. He did very well. He was my WPRA tour horse. So, I started to burn out. My mom wasn't doing very well, so I came back to Northern California, and from Bennick Livestock Company, and went to work for a handful of different private owners at training horses. Started kind of watching. There was a few little colts starting things popping up here and there, and I'd get into those. And I wanted to do reining cow horses, and met up with Skip Brown. He was in Red Bluff, California at that time. And learned some stuff from him and rode for him a little bit. And he was helping me with a mare that I had entered in the Snafflebit, 92 Snafflebit Futurity in Reno. And he said, I got a guy that could use your help. I think you guys will do real good together. And introduced me to Smokey Pritchett. And I went to work for Smokey as the only female colt starter that Smokey Pritchett ever had to this date. So I was there for 5 years, and going to some rodeos, helping him, starting colts, helping in the breed barn, covering mares while I was still breeding my own mares, trying to make my own horses, putting them out for girls that were going down the road. And moved to Nevada, would still go to Smokies over for 30 days to start the 2-year-olds. And in that group of 2-year-olds was Freckle-Faced Smoke by Bonnie Smoke, whom was sired by Mr. Gunsmoke, when again, wraps back to Skip Brown. And I have a Freckle-Faced Smoke son that I breed mares to today. So it helped me a lot. I was pretty close on things, but I learned a ton, like the tricks, I guess, if you would, or, how to get a horse really broke in his body. Those things that the great snaffle bit guys and reining cow horse guys and bridle horse guys know, and I wanted to know it. And so I felt very blessed to be able to ride some of the nicest horses the country could raise and get paid to do it. So from there, I went to Nevada. I had already started kind of my own cow herd and was wanting to ride a few of my own horses and wanting to run barrels and wanting to run the stud. And so moved to Fallon, Nevada, bought a place, opened to train horses, for the public, met Wilma Heibarger. Wilma Heibarger was a cow horse trainer also, and her twin sister had already been to the NFR in the barrel race. So she was a late barrel racer, as I was, and we both kind of had that same thought that horses needed to be really, really broke. And then you patterned them, and so it kind of carries on today. Anything that I run barrels, it's kind of the last thing. I've only had one Derby horse in my life, and he actually was a son of Calbar. And Smokey said he'd never run. And I won a lot and sold him for a bunch. I made him an AQHA all-around horse. I jumped him and ran barrels and cow-horsed him. And he just did whatever I wanted. Short little fat thing, and had the heart of gold. But was there for almost 10 years, building my cow herd and my dogs, trained a lot of dogs, did a lot of dog videos. And just kind of riding my own, raised some really nice horses. I had Cupid's King, too, at that time, who won the world. Had 7 ROMs in every cow working event. And through those years had met Ronnie Emmons and Bobby, who were like kind of at that point, before he really became who's who in the paint horse deal and had that great big run, and was breeding mares to the Cupid's King. And so there I leased the place, went back to Oregon, moved all my cows and the dogs and the horses, and kind of hibernated up in Oregon for a while. And then my mom got really sick, came back to California, had my daughter Paige, and took care of my mom. And I just was training for the public, trying to make a living, going to just local barrel races and whatever, I could dibble-dabble in, which was an awful lot of different kind of things. And so I'd ride English horses for a while and have clients who wanted to show English horses or some jump horses, or ride some thoroughbred horses for people, or cross-country type horses, dressage horses, then come back to Western riding horses, and then cow horses. And so, that true all-around type horse, and that's the kind I still like today, and I like whatever the horse tells me he wants to do, that's what I want to do. But in 2007, I saw the first Extreme Mustang makeover and said, I want to do that. I can do that. And 2008 applied for the first California Cal Expo, got Samson, and came back. Patty Colbert told me they were betting that horse wouldn't come back. I can always say that if I'm going to draw hard, I'm telling you, the luck of the draw is I get the tough guys. But what's cool about that is in those tough guys, I do bring them back. And I split the 10th hold for the finals and had best condition horse out of 32. Met John Lyons, had really neat discussions with him. I skipped ahead. Prior to that, I had done colt starting competition that had some big name collisions now in it at Row Ranch, and it was for the lead up for the World Championship for Ranch Rodeo. And they were like, "Oh, who are you and where did she come from?" And I think I was that dark horse. They didn't see me coming and they didn't know what to do with me. And that's a story in itself, because they brought something to me that, in fact, the first day he says, "Oh, she blew the trap. We couldn't catch her, so you might not be able to do this first round." I'm thinking, well, you guys are the cowboys. This is your gig. You can't catch your own horses and bring them. And here I see this kid, and I wish I could remember who it is, and I don't want to get the names wrong, but it's a big one. It's a big one that people flock to. And he was leading to the nicest colts through all these people from the rodeo arena up to the round pen where they do this colt starting competition. And I'm getting told mine blew the trap and they can't catch her. So she's going to be pissed and just hell-bent, right? Time they get her. But they got her and they brought her to me, and I think they were going, well, we'll see about that. We'll just shut her down right now. And it didn't happen. So, to go back after Cal Expo 2008, I wanted to do Extreme Mustang Makeover. I was having a little trouble, and I did get my physical trouble, and we didn't know what was going on. I figured it had been due to a wreck that my dad and I had been roping a bunch of wild cattle, and I had a cow pull a horse down on top of me a few years prior to that, and so I thought I was just kind of dealing with some stuff from that. And 2008, I got Riagato. He was also a tough draw, and had to make that horrible call back to Patty Colbert and say, I won't be able to bring him. I have to have spinal cord surgery. They found a tumor in my spinal cord. That's what the trouble was. So I had a spinal cord surgery, and because my whole livelihood depended on what I get on to make bills, right, I sold all my cattle, which was a tough deal, but I did it, and we lived on that for about 3 years while I was healing, and I was still dibble-dabbling, breeding a couple mares, riding a few horses that were soft and kind, and saw Project Cowboy, and went to my first Project Cowboy, and Patty Colbert said, we really want you healthy. And I said, well, I want to be healthy too, but, I need to make a living, and I'm okay. I just got to watch what I get on. So I did Fort Worth with a stallion that belonged to somebody else that had kind of a crappy reputation, but it wasn't him. It was who was hanging on to the end of that rope. Because he was pretty nice. He just didn't have a chance. So he did everything with me. We made it all the way up to the last round. And he was just like a big 2-rein at 12 years old. He just wasn't broke. Brought him home, did Cal Expo Extreme, or Project Cowboy again on him, and made it again up to the 3rd round. Did very well in other, like under the camera stuff. Did very good on a lot of those competition parts that they have, because there's so many, and met Tootie Blanche, and I knew that Road to the Horse was going on, and I kept saying, I want in, and Patty's like, we want you healthy, we don't want to see you till you're healthy. So came back home, had some surgeries, and I'm about as healthy as I have been in a long time. And I'm about as young as I'm going to ever be. And I am gearing up to saddle a bunch of horses that I've raised that have kind of gotten by us. Some are young, some are a little older, some had been started prior, and they're in all different stages, and I will get those up for you guys this spring. So that you guys have some fresh video, because I go back and look at the old videos. Not that there's anything wrong. I just watching horse training videos like watching paint dry. It's very boring. I mean, anyways, through the years, I'd been asked if I was Ray Hunt student, that I mimicked a lot of things that he did, or Tom Dorsey, and I was like, I really didn't know who those were. I wasn't, but I mean, I know who they are now, and I researched because I want to know who these guys were, right? And not being a computer person, it was very, very tough for me to get access to, like, how do you even, what do they call it, surf the internet. Since then I have, and I still to this day will, somebody that I admire in their horsemanship, I'll watch and see how much, if there's something I can pick up. Is there something I might be missing? Is there something that, I might need to change? And it's really confirmation to me to see that being a student of the horse and working for some of the, great bridle horse guys I worked for, that, and just that God-given talent of being able to read horses and being a student of the horse, and getting around a lot of bad horses, wild horses, whatever it was, taught me, that gave me confirmation that I personally, and if you know me, I'm not a person to toot my own horn, but I personally believe that I have the ability and paid the dues to hopefully be considered for your guys' road to the horse. And the other thing is that I believe you get to draw your own, which for me is brilliant, because if I draw bad, it's on me, right? Okay, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know there's a lot been left out. I've done a lot more that wasn't added, but I was trying to get you a non-lengthy bio. Thank you for considering me. God bless, and I hope to hear back from you soon.